Hi, this is Steve from LZ23 Strength, welcoming you to another episode. This one's entitled Movement Means Life. And this is a motto or a ethos, a creed, something that I'm going to be beating the drum in most of the videos. I feel very strongly that for health span and longevity that movement is critical. Now, a lot of times when we think of movement, we associate it with our physical well-being and our health. But we're going to look at a couple other areas that it's also very critical in and that it affects many people. And hopefully you'll get the idea and again be motivated to incorporate more movement on a daily basis. Now, the first area I want to discuss, I just saw a podcast recently that said that depression is the #1 disability in the United States. And worldwide, I looked up the statistic, they estimate close to 300 million people earthwide suffer from some form of depression. There's a variety of levels that it can impact somebody, but we realize that when somebody's depressed, it's not going to be great as far as their daily activities. Some people are so severe that they have a hard time getting out of bed. But when you're depressed, you don't make good decisions. And one area especially could be in the diet. It becomes very easy to eat whatever you want because nothing matters if a person's depressed. Another area is that people sometimes turn to other substances, whether it's drugs or alcohol abuse, and again, those things are just going to spiral somebody out of control in a bad way regarding depression. Now, remember, I'm not a psychiatrist, psychologist, a doctor, so this is all just for informational purposes and entertainment. It's not medical advice, but I present it out there so that hopefully if you're suffering in whatever way, that it might encourage you to do a deep dive yourself, because there's so much information available with AI. There's a lot of information on YouTube, the medical field, many medical things that you could look up online as well. So I'm just hoping to put that out there, that it's not hopeless always, and that you can look into it and see in your particular situation what you might be able to do. There's a lot of research that shows that vigorous exercise does help people who suffer from depression. Something recently I put in another video that just 8,000 to 10,000 steps a day really lowers individuals' depression. So again, it's something that you want to do research and see, well, what can I do in my situation? See if it helps. If we're not doing it currently, would it really hurt to start walking 5,000, 7,000, 8,000, 10, setting goals to get a lot of steps in each day, maybe do some physical, vigorous strength training and see how we feel, see if it helps. Just to use an example of learning new things and being motivated, I just saw a podcast about sunlight. And I know that sunlight is vital for us, all the different rays that we get from it. But one of the statistics that a study was actually done, that people in the hospital, when there's 2 patients in a room, the person that's by the window is always, maybe not always, but discharged way earlier than the person that's in the bed near the hallway. And they've done studies on this. So that's the first time I ever heard it. I thought it was fascinating. I've talked to other people about it and they've all heard it before, so I'm behind on that one. But it's exciting when you see something new, like, wow, it makes a lot of sense. And that's why I'm hoping to do this regarding depression, that it might have an impact on individuals that can truly help them make changes. And it's interesting too, when you talk about depression, sometimes we don't think of young ones, but younger and younger people are facing anxieties, having behavioral issues. And again, it's several years ago, I was a doctor and they did studies in different schools, just giving activity to the kids before school started, giving them an opportunity to basically exercise and play, changed their behaviors dramatically, where there were so many troubled kids getting into trouble doing what have you. And yet after this was instituted, the behavioral problems all went down. So we can't underestimate how much movement can have an impact on individuals. Now the second area that we've talked about a little bit in other videos has to do with cognitive decline and such things as dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, just to name a few. And it's funny, in these areas, when we're in our 30s, 40s, or 50s, it's not even an afterthought. We don't think that's something we ever have to worry about unless somebody has family history. But again, the numbers regarding dementia and Alzheimer's just keeps climbing, and the estimates for the future are not bright. It's pretty dire when they make the estimates and forecast. But again, movement has been shown to limit the risk, and sometimes greatly limit the risk for individuals. And again, it's important for us to realize, as it is with all health situations, it just doesn't happen overnight. You don't just wake up one day in your 60s and 70s and all of a sudden you've got dementia, or you have Alzheimer's, or diabetes, or cancer for that matter. It doesn't happen overnight. It's accumulative for decades, from things that we've done, things that we haven't done, basically our lifestyle, taking in movement, diet, and all sorts of things that lead up to these things. So the earlier that we can start to incorporate movement and have it a part of our life, it's really going to help us determine how we age, how we feel, how susceptible we are to some of these ailments and conditions, maybe how soon it might affect us, and maybe even if we can avoid it altogether, possibly. Just because there is some family history, or definitely hereditary factors can play in, but it's not something carved in stone that my grandfather or my grandmother and mom had it, so automatically I'm doomed, I'm destined to suffer from these things. So we want to look at it as something that we can do something about, or at least try. That's something that I kind of preach in all of my videos, is we got to try. We're not going to do it perfectly, and we might not get the results always that we want, but you got to try. If we don't try, we know what the results are going to be. And movement is one of our greatest tactics that we have to fight these things. So I encourage you to think about that deeply. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to beat the drum on this, that movement means life. And the third area that I want to talk about in this regard has to do with exercise. And maybe you're somebody who gets up every morning and you go to the gym for an hour before work, which is phenomenal, which puts you way ahead of the majority, because the majority of people, they don't exercise at all. The sedentary culture is sadly widespread every country, and many people, for a number of reasons, which I have a video on, don't exercise. But let's say you do. Let's say you work out for an hour every morning, 4, 5, 6 days a week. Awesome. I love it. And that's what I try to do. I try to get 5, 6, 7 days in, and it's awesome. Now, we have to remember, though, that there's 23 other hours in a day. That's 1 hour out of the day. There's 23 other hours. What do those other 23 hours look like? While we're getting phenomenal benefit for that hour, if the other 23 hours are basically sedentary, then we're not doing as much as we think we are or need to do. For example, let's say you drive 20 minutes or a half hour to work, you're sitting in your car, not moving. Same thing, ride home, so that could be almost an hour a day of not moving. And then what if your job is sitting at a desk in front of a computer all day, 7, 8, 9 hours of the day sitting? You get home, sit down for dinner, maybe get on your computer at home a little, or scroll on your phone. I know a lot of folks love to do that. I'm not a full phone scroller, but people like to do that, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, what have you. And then at the end of the night, sit down for an hour or two to watch television in your recliner. So you get the point there that a lot of the day could be inactive. Even if you're going for that hour in the morning to the gym, the rest of the day might not have it. My example for myself, I mean, this is a reminder for all of us, and I'm reminding myself too. My job is pretty physical. I work in a warehouse. I lift things. I'm walking constantly, standing. So it's pretty physical, but I've newly started to incorporate 10 to 15 air squats every hour to hour and a half if I can, depending on, obviously I'm not going to stop working, but if I can take 1 minute, literally it takes 1 minute or less, 45 seconds to a minute, if that, and just extra movement. And even at home, try to do that, incorporate that. And on the weekends, jumping jacks, planking, any kind of activity. And especially when we think about walking might be the simplest thing, but we need to do that. And something I haven't talked about in one of my videos, but I'm sure you've heard of it before, that walking after a meal for 10 minutes can greatly reduce your glucose spike. And some have even equated it to be the equal of the drug metformin that many folks with diabetes take. So trying to incorporate that, let's say at lunchtime, after you eat lunch, could you take a 10-minute walk right after dinner? I mean, it's nice if you can get outside and get some fresh air, get some sunlight, but even if it's just around your house, a lot of times our walking involves just going around our basement, make a big circle. It's a good sized basement, so just do laps around the basement, incorporate some squats or some jumping jacks. But any kind of movement after eating, there's multiple benefits, and again, it's keeping us moving throughout the day. So another aspect, sorry I didn't get to mention, is playing some sports and playing. We mentioned earlier how kids' behavior can be affected by moving and playing. Sometimes as we get older, we lose that playfulness. So maybe play a sport, racket sport, tennis, pickleball, badminton. Did you know that individuals who do those regularly have a longer lifespan than the average person? And they're still not sure if it has to do with just being active, or also you're doing it with at least one other person. Sometimes it's double, so you're involving other people, relationships, friendships, and they actually shown some of them the lifespan is 4, 5, 6, 7 years longer, depending which sport and how much you do. So being playful, playing a sport, just remember the rule of never getting hurt. That's the number one rule. Whatever sport you're doing, you want to exert yourself in it, obviously, and have fun, be competitive, but you don't want to do something that you're going to get hurt. And rule number 2 is see rule number 1. Never get hurt. Injuries are going to sideline us, and then movement is going to be nearly impossible. But those are things you can do: walking, maybe swimming, bike riding, playing some sports. But movement, air squats, mentioned something that they're termed at times as exercise snacks. Think of doing exercise snacks even when you're at home, on your lunch break at work. If you can, whatever you can incorporate, it's going to be good for your friends. So remember that movement means life. It literally does. Each and every day we want to be movement centric, movement oriented. And gardening, working on the flowers, working in the yard, all excellent things. Cleaning the house, incorporate as much as you can. When you drive somewhere, park far away, so you have to walk, you have to use those muscles, use your legs. All things that are going to be truly beneficial. So please remember to hit the like button and leave a encouraging comment. Please subscribe, and remember to exert yourself, exert your body, elevate your health, and evolve in your mind and body. And we look forward to seeing you in the next